Let me give you the update on what you missed, which will include why I think the prosecution's already lost.
Okay, I'll give you the solo view here, Jeff. I'll give you the solo
view. No, don't do that. That's like gay. That's masturbation. We don't want
Sorry. I wanted to make it up for Danny being on top. I thought you might complain about that.
No, why would I complain about that?
Middle, technically.
No, I would complain about that.
Up to down, right?
Yeah, I would complain about the middle, and no problem. Anyway, I think it's over. I really do think it's over, unless the prosecution can present something that overcomes this devastation that happened today. We'll see if Danny agrees. Anyway, Clarice, she was still on the stand for cross-examination, and the lawyer, Dick Poon, he's bluffing. He's crazy like a fox. He does this Columbo Matlock, I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer, bumbling guy. At the beginning of every time he gives a cross-examination. And then by the end, he is literally in their space right here, rapid fire questions, making them look ridiculously stupid. So this whole boomer thing at the beginning, I don't know how to work a microphone.
That's a game.
Yeah, that goes out the window, and soon he's talking about laser tracking the bullet paths and things. Like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. But he was up in her face because she said that they have this thing called a Pharaoh, which is apparently some sort of recreation of the crime scene video. And he's like, oh, so you created this, did you? It's not a drone footage. You just created this. And stuck her on that. And they went on for, did you see everything from the beginning, Danny?
How long did it take?
This
total
morning,
time
yeah.
to the total cross? How long did that go? Because, God, it went like
2 hours.
5 hours on direct.
It was like 2.5 hours.
Okay, so Danny saw from that 5 hours of work.
Danny, explain to me if you can, because I certainly have zero answer for it. Why they talked about bullet holes in a quail pen for 45 minutes.
Fuck? On cross?
Yeah.
Yes, on cross. They talked about it for like 20 minutes. They were like, now show us the trajectory. And she's like, here's the trajectory rod that we use to analyze this and this and this. And they went on for 2 hours. What I didn't
sketches of quail, of this quail pen. And they said there's
show
defects
me on the quail where
pen.
they touched you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's defects in the quail pen. The defects mean the bullet hole. He's like, so a bullet hole went through the round and out the back. Yeah, like they went on and on and on about this quail pen. And I mean, it felt like it was about an hour they talked about this stupid quail hutch and this bullet trajectory. But while they were talking about the bullet trajectory, they were spraying aerosol, I guess, to use like a laser pointer to show the angles. And they were saying that one of them came from low and the rifle shot came from up high.
Like it was a different person up on high?
Yeah, and well, that's what they were saying. You were saying, well, how do you explain that? And this is where I said it's done, it's over. And Flux said it exactly the same time I said it. You said, well, how do you explain that? And she said, well, Clary says, well, people move around. The shooter can move around.
Sure.
And then it was a very well worded question. He says, is there a possibility that there could have been two shooters?
Yep.
She hedged around it.
Possibility, yeah.
But no, then the next question was, could it be a reasonable explanation to say there were two shooters, each with a weapon?
Yep.
She said yes.
Oh, gotcha, bitch. Gotcha, bitch.
So literally, that's the end. Because in closing arguments, he is going to get up and say, the prosecution's criminologist, the #1 person on scene for collecting and analyze evidence, has testified under oath on the stand that she has reasonable doubt, because it's reasonable to conclude, based on her own collected evidence, that there was another shooter involved. So if they don't come up with something to counter that, it's over, I think. That was just crushing.
And they didn't rehabilitate that on redirect at all?
Nope.
Well, when they did, it was the
impotent. Was it impotent?
Well, and they didn't object to it either. That's what shocked me, is like, I would have been throwing out objections knowing where he was going, because, and Jeff, he didn't just ask it once. and get confirmation
Yeah.
one time. He asked several times, and she said yes every single time.
Every
And
single
I'm
time.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, how are they just letting this go? And I would have been objection, 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 like speculation, speculation all the way
Mhm.
down the board. I totally agree with you, Jeff. I thought the exact same thing.
Well, the rehabilitation, the redirect by it was a Beetlejuice Winona Ryder that was doing the redirect. So yeah, Winona was doing it, and
Not your girl.
Yeah, she said, "Well, there was stippling on Maggie. So what does that mean? It means it was the shooting happened up close.
Up close. Okay. Yeah.
And they said, well, it's possible. She repeated it. Well, they say it's possible there could have been two shooters, which was stupid to repeat that.
Why? Yeah. Why
said,
would
well,
you do that? Why would you do that?
And they said, but is it also possible that someone can move around? And she said, yes.
Okay. And they thought that
Yeah.
that rehabilitated that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that was it. There was. I mean, you should have asked. There had to have been something to elicit the testimony from that witness to say there is absolutely. I mean, what I would have asked was, is there a single piece of objective evidence you uncovered in your examination to say conclusively or even reasonably that another living soul on planet Earth was present when this murder happened?
Yes, there you go.
No, and the guy's crushed.
Well, and they could have gone back to her prior testimony that she gave on cross, where the defense attorney continually asked her whether she had examined the other sets of footprints. And she said, well, we identified his sets of footprints and we knew it was his. And he said, that's not what I asked you. And then he asks her again. And then he goes back and does ask her, how did you know it was his set of footprints, or how did you measure it? To me, that opens the door. I would have on rehabilitation come back and said, did you see any other footprints that would have lined up with that trajectory besides his? I would have just gone in and closed that door right then and there, tied up that loose end and said, is it reasonable that someone else would have been wearing his shoes, standing there shooting from that angle, happened to be the same amount of potentially about the same weight, right? Because the impression would have been almost the same. Wouldn't that be right? Like, you would have just gone in and made that clarification, tied up those loose ends. But instead, I mean, and why do they have a quail hutch in the first place? Is it for shooting practice, or are they trying to catch hawks?
Quails are weird pets.
No, they do have quail. Do quail hunting, dove hunting. I think dove hunting. That was on the advertising.
Oh, is that what that was for?
Yeah. So like this pretty much is a hunting lodge, right? This is essentially a hunting lodge. So they have all sorts of things. I mean, the dogs are hunting dogs, right? These aren't just like he's running a breeding for Shih Tzus, right? This is a hunting property, which is, by the way, why the wife didn't want to stay there. She wanted to stay at the beach house, not at the hunting lodge.
Go figure.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, on the cross-examination of Clarice Starling, he did the same thing that he's done with every other witness he's cross-examined. He asks something that's outside of their area of expertise or their duties, and just spends 20 minutes getting them to say, I don't know, to everything. And the prosecution doesn't stand up and make any objections for that. And I don't know why. That's not, just like it's beyond the scope of anything that we've talked about. But they just let him go on. And then she made a big mistake as well. I mean, it's a small mistake, but it's big. Right on the heels of, is it reasonable to conclude? Is it a reasonable explanation to assume there's two? However you worded it, I wrote it. I've already gone on the next page, but the next question was essentially about the angle of the bullet trajectory.
Right.
And in her notes, she says it was 84 degrees. And in her official report, it says 96 degrees. And so he pounded her on that discrepancy for so long.
You can't, that's amateur hour. That is amateur hour.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot show up with a faulty report to court. You've had so much time to fix this shit. Like, you've had so much time to fix this.
And then they got her to testify that the police walked through the crime scene, and the police should not. She said the police should not have walked through the crime scene. It was a mistake for them to walk.
How much evidence did they destroy? Is his exact question.
Yep.
How much?
And her answer,
yeah, I was gonna say, how did she answer? How did she answer?
I don't know.
I don't know. She did not help herself at all. The other one that sticks out in my mind is where he gives her these round numbers and he says, so it was approximately this, this angle or this percent or whatever.
Right,
and she goes,
right.
Yeah, about that,
Mhm.
round about that. And I'm like, ooh, lady, now is not the time to be guesstimating.
Not helping their case at all.
Yeah, and then she also did the initial testing, I guess, on his perfectly clean shirt and shorts, and said there were stains on there that could have been blood. It could have been blood. Was it human blood? Was it animal blood? Was it detergent?
Was it the chicken?
I don't know.
Have we proven the chicken yet?
Yeah.
Have we gotten the relevance of the fucking
chicken did it
yet?
I think the chicken is going to the blood. I think that's where they're going with the chicken.
Comments is that like the blood could have been the chicken's blood, right?
And
we spent a whole day on the dead chicken.
But we don't have a fucking answer about the goddamn chicken.
Sorry, Jeff. Keep going.
No, it's just it's stunning in its stupidity. That and then he said, well, after you do the this initial test, you do the confirmatory test. And she says, well, we don't do that. Well, do you know the result? I don't know. So she doesn't know the result. So in your preparation, you didn't know that? You didn't notice this?
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, and it got worse and worse.
That's bad.
It was sad. I'm looking through to see if there's anything else that had any ability to help anybody at all.
The picture, I think, could have been helpful. So they compared like the picture of her dead body, the wife's dead body, and they were saying, oh, does this match the footprint? Could this have been a footprint? And she goes, oh, I don't know. And then he's like, is this the one you used? Or,
wait, hold on. The foot expert?
Yes. She didn't know whether or not that would have been a footprint on her thigh or on her calf. And then he looks at it and he says, okay, well, look here at the photo. What do you think? And she takes a look. She goes, well, that's not the one I used in my report. And he goes, huh? Well, what did you use in your report then? Like there were so many, like she fumbled her way through that so badly that you could tell defense like couldn't have expected it to go worse for them. And so they were like trying to follow up on these questions, but also keep their line of questioning because they were looking for these big, gotcha moments, but they had so many in between gotcha moments that they didn't shift to immediately. That's where I think the defense could have done much better is there were so many moments of, about that, round about that, or I don't know, or I mean, it could have been, but that wasn't the photo I used, where it's like, well, wait a second. I would have shifted gears and said, let's delve into that a little bit more. But, they stuck with their rhythm and their line. So.
Yeah, do you think they had the big gotcha moments? Like, do you feel like the defense has like really been exploiting those in general? Because I think that for me, at least watching them last week, right? Because I haven't gotten in this week yet. But I think that the biggest moments for the defense kind of came at the end of the questioning every day, right? They'd have one or two big moments that kind of finish strong or finish with some strong comments. Even I thought the way that Dick Poon dismissed the jury, kind of he was the one to let him go home. I thought that was a very like tactful move. What do you think about today?
Well, the one thing it's not necessarily so much today, but again, I was really hard on Dick Poon from the beginning. And then I started when I was thinking about it yesterday, I started to realize that he's just crazy like a fox. Yeah, he's never said murderer. It's always the murderers, the intruders, the shooters. Everything is plural every time he says it. I mean, he can't say we think there were two shooters because then the burden shifts to them to prove there was two shooters. He can't say we think it was this person because then you have to prove it's that person. But he just throws that out there as close to the line as he can get. And one of these 12 jurors is going to go back there and they're going to be going, okay, well, let's see. Was he the shooter? But wait a minute. He said there was two shooters. He said it a lot of times. I heard him say there was two shooters. Yeah,
he planted that idea in their head, that there could be two shooters.
But he's doing things like that constantly. And, the way, and everybody gets mad how he just shuffles around like a doddering old man. Like I said, Columbo, he just kind of shuffles around the courtroom. But as you watch as he goes along, he starts I mean, he starts pacing like a lion. He just starts prowling the courtroom, and he makes a point of getting up in the prosecutor's face. And then he gets right up in the witness, to the point where I'm surprised that the prosecutor hasn't said, "Judge, will you tell him to just get the hell away from the
get the fuck out?"
Witness?
Yeah, because he does. I will say one thing about Poon. He's kind of ballsy with like the standing up, like moving around. He's very comfortable in the well. He doesn't ask for permission. He just does it, right?
And it works.
Yeah,
it totally works. I had a contracts law professor who used to do that. And here, I'll show you what he used to do. He'd pace like this. And his arms would fold when he thought you were like answering. And so you were never sure if you were actually answering correctly. And he would then lean over and look at you like this, like, really, those are the facts, you know? And it was so intimidating, and he would do it on purpose. And I'm actually glad he did, because now I laugh when
you're immune to it. You're immune to the tactic.
Yeah, now I'm immune to it. So I'm actually glad he did. But at the same time, it's very intimidating, and it can really start to, basically you're leading them by the nose, literally.